Boom! You're on!
Yeah.
Are we live?
Hey.
Are we live? Yeah, we're live, I can tell because it's in the top right corner. So, welcome to the Wes Smith Variety Show. I believe this is episode 11. Today, I'll talk a little bit more about who's on today, but brief introduction. We have my trusty right-hander in New York on her boat. That's Kelly Agent 137 Ross. And then later we'll be introducing Alex Diaz, who probably needs no introduction to many of you, but we'll get into that. A couple quick things before we get rolling. As usual, let's see. For Baltimore and East Coast music fans, bass fans, and whatnot, we've got I've got this. What is it? Breaks for Bass. Is that the right name, Kelly? Breaks for Bass. Yes. Substance is the promoter there. Beers for Breaks. Yes. So
yep.
Substance is the promoter. It's at Bamboo, and that is Saturday. This coming Saturday. That'll be a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun promo going on. Check out stuff. Either Substance, that's SUBSDANCE, on Facebook and whatnot, or check out Beers for, like, the letter Breaks, and that'll pull up all kinds of cool stuff. So Kelly will be down there. I'll be there, obviously, and there's a whole slew of awesome DJs from the area on that, so that's cool. Check it out. Let's see, and then after that, the one other one that I have coming up that's a nice summer party is Electric Love Festival. That is in Kamloops, Canada. I think it's at the, if I get the pronunciation of this right, it is the Cheam Fishing Village in Chilliwack. So you can check them out, Electric Love Festival. They're based out of Canada, so if you find more than one Electric Love out there, which is highly likely, I know there's a couple, it's the one in Canada that's that has the festival. We got Crafty Cuts, Jay Flip, myself, and just a whole bunch of other talent. There's 3 or 4 stages, some band type music as well as electronic and a hip hop stage. Very cool. I played it last year, a lot of fun, and this year looks to be shaping up to be bigger. Other than that, outside of events, there's other stuff coming up. We'll hold it with that right now. And always like to mention Juice Recordings record label, and also Punk's Music, 2 of the main ones that I've had most of my glory days on so far. And then you can always go over, if you're looking for cool stuff, we have the shop open now over at juicerecordings.com. Some t-shirts, stickers, things like that. And the irony in that deal is that we used to give the stickers away free, but we kept getting hacked because there's these like free scraper sites. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about that more with Alex as we get going, and funny things on the internet in general. So that's it for those shout outs. Again, Kelly Agent Ross 137 in New York. And without further, I won't say ado, but yeah, without further ado, Alex Diaz, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey.
What's up, dude? Give us a little 411, the easy stuff for people to find, and then I have been waiting to talk to you, dude, because you have some of the most eclectic variety of topics through social media, and I couldn't be more excited than to sit down and chat with you. I'm afraid it may go on for hours.
Well, I really appreciate that. Been doing the whole thing for a really long time. Super into the breakbeat, just like you guys. Right now, I'm working with Punk's Music, just like Wes. Also doing some work for Decline's record label, Hotcakes Bass, and I am a freelance writer for Insomniac.com.
Yes, and let's see, where can people find you, man? Real quick, I'd like to throw that out there so people can kind of noodle around while we're chatting.
SoundCloud.com/SYCHOSIS.
Okay.
And my Facebook page is facebook.com/Sychosis Music. Same
Cool.
spelling, just with music at the end.
and Twitter, where you can find the most fiery of debates from Alex, the man. DJ Sychosis spelled the same way that he just spelled it out. So go blow up his Twitter. All 5 of you that are listening right now, go blow up his Twitter. So
my Twitter is really just a repository for music I like. So
Okay, all right. Well, who knows? Maybe after today that'll change. we're live, so we're always subject to you know, celebrities dropping in. You never know, man. So.
Yeah, you know, Ashley Olsen, if you're out there, just hit me up, girl.
There you go. It was said. It was said. Tweet it, find it, trend it. Cool, man. Tell us about. I want to know more about. You know, probably the. What did I meet the first time, man? Like I think 2 years ago or so in Oakland, right?
Yeah, in Oakland at Faultline.
Yeah, Eric Rigby and
yeah.
And who else? Justin.
Justin Johnson.
Justin Johnson, and they're the two that do Faultline, right?
Yes, they are. They've been at it for almost 2 years now. Steady killing it in San Francisco, bringing out some really awesome breaks artists, and just basically holding it down.
Yeah, cool. I like those guys. So I think that's the first time I met you, and then I guess after that I followed and read some articles that you wrote for Insomniac. So I'd love to, you know, kind of hear more about what it's like, you know, what it's like at Insomniac or writing for the industry, whichever floats your boat.
It's Insomniac as a company is amazing. They've taken really good care of me, just doing music reviews, and slowly over the last 2 years they've enlisted me to do lots of other things. I did spent a year doing music tech writing. Right now I'm doing a lot of artist interviews for their Metronome series and also for the Discovery Project's releases side as well. They're a really great company. I love writing. It's possibly my favorite thing next to making music and playing music. So I'm exactly where I want to be right now with it.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I've seen you post a number of times about your appreciation for being able to be involved with music, in the music industry, maybe quasi-entertainment industry. You know, being thankful for that, and so that is, you know, man, that's a unique position among people out there, you know, doing anything, especially in the electronic music business. You know, how's that for you? You know, what's all the stuff you've got going on? You're writing, you're doing music, and then you do gigs. I know some here and there. In fact, there was a brilliant post from you today about or maybe yesterday about people telling you that you should. What was that? What was that debate about, dude? Let's get right into that. I thought that was a good one. It's got like 30 comments on your wall.
My beef with the industry sometimes is promoters will often tell you, oh, if you want to get booked, you got to support the scene. And, you know, everybody gets to a certain place in life where they have life going on, or maybe they're locked up at home making music all this time and doing other things that actually support the scene. You don't always have the time to go out to every party or every event. I usually go out to parties that I'm either booked to play at or I'm working at. So the whole idea that but what they really want you to do is pay money to go to their overpriced shows and maybe do a little bit of the jiggle on the balls there.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of this mindset through social media about, you know, it usually seems to be with nights that are kind of run by a crew who don't really book people anyway.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. In fact, you know, I've done those types of monthlies myself. So you know, understanding what it takes to do that and kind of what your overall purpose is in doing that, I get that. But it is weird when the commentary like you're talking about is coming from, you know, someone in that position where it's like, well, you know, come out and support our monthly all the time, be part of the scene, we know who you are. If we don't see you, we don't know you, all this kind of stuff. It's like, that just seems a little bit maybe hypocritical, I guess.
A little bit. I definitely have to agree with that, because their whole argument is that they need you to support the scene, but the only scene they're looking for you to support is theirs, and not the wider, not creating anything for the greater good of electronic music or dance music or entertainment or maybe if you're into underwater basket weaving and you're still getting the same problem from your underwater basket weaving.
I'm sure it's
whatever,
similar.
dude. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure it's similar in everything. There's a type of promoter or business in everything. What were you saying, Kelly?
I think what you said about that, and I don't want to misquote you, but what you're saying.
Oh, please do. Misquote away.
Let me misquote you away. It was something about to the effect of, you know, isn't it support when I'm writing an article about you or posting your stuff?
Oh, there? I hear you.
Yeah.
I think Alex is he's on that cell phone bandwidth. That's all right. We experience this all the time.
I told you, man. I was just hanging out in the streets. I had to make a phone call.
There you go.
No, I was saying about what you commented on about what about if you write an article about them or you're promoting electronic dance music in a way that helps their shows out because you're writing articles or you're whatever you're doing or you're writing a song that the DJs are playing.
Yeah, that's all support.
Yeah.
I mean, you're contributing to the scene. I think that's all that matters. I don't think it matters if you go out to everybody's shows or not. I mean, if you're contributing something to the scene for the greater good, then that should be congratulated and rewarded in some way.
I agree.
This goes for anything. I wasn't making. Yeah.
I think you should still go to the shows. I think there are some shows, but I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, there are certain crews that ask you to come out, and then they're going to do absolutely nothing in return, and they just want heads out, and I get that. But I like how you spun the positive on that and said, you know, these are the positive things we're doing for the scene, and this does help out your scene in a way. Because, I mean, if you're not producing songs, some DJs aren't playing anything out. You know I played a whole stack of Sychosis tunes in a whole entire night.
Yeah.
And Westman.
Yeah.
No, this is true.
Well, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of, you know, you're always and I always enjoy things like this on social media because you quite often, you know, like with a few thousand or more, you know, likes on a Facebook page or your profile or whatever it is, you know, Twitter, 1,000, you know, it doesn't have to be a huge number of followers to where you'll get, if it's engaging, 30 or 40 responses, and yours always get a wide array of them, you know, from all camps with opinions. That's one of the reasons I enjoy them. And
yeah, camps with friends.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's a nice array of opinions, right? And they're all very vocal because you probably know at least half of them, and but I don't know them all, so it's still entertaining to look at, and from that perspective, and you know, and like you said, it could be basket weaving or, you know, whatever, video game making or the microbrew business. I would always tell Kelly when I talk about you know, a lot of things we do at what was at the label, but then also for like my booking type stuff and things, and we were, you know, just talking to promoters or various things, and I would always tell Kelly, you know, there's like 3 or 4 types of promoters, you know, and the reasons that they kind of do what they do, and I think it's, you know, it just helps if you understand that, you know. So there's people that are just kind of purely doing it as a hobby. That's all good. There's people that, you know, hire their favorite DJ for a birthday party, and that's all good. And then there's people that are, you know, running maybe less corporate venues, but they're definitely event promoters, you know, that are in it for a living. And then there's, you know, and then there's velvet rope type club promoters that are also more obviously in it for a living. But you know, so those are kind of like the 3 or 4, like loosely, that we just sort of like try to think about, you know, when someone who I have no idea who they are may approach me. And I think they're all good. It's helped me a lot to just understand the difference and probably what is meaningful to them, you know. Are you there, Alex? He's there. He's back. Kelly?
I'm here.
Oh, Kelly's there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Did we lose Alex? I don't hear him.
I don't know. I don't hear him either. I think too.
I see him.
There's a whole bunch of events that didn't used to be out there, so there's just a oversaturation. So it is very difficult, and I think what people don't realize is that, you know, when I've got 20 invites for a Wednesday, you know, and there's only so many things that you can go to, and people have to sleep. So at some point, they have other things too, you know, especially if you're in production. It takes up a lot of time, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Touring, it takes up a lot of time. All of that takes up a lot of time, and to go out on a Wednesday is a difficult thing to do, you know, on a regular basis, and a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday too. You don't want to go out every night and do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, absolutely. I mean, that ends up taking a toll on your body and the things that you really want to do. Like, if you're in this for making music, you got to make music sometime, and going out to, you know, get in the way of that. So a lot of producers, you know, they spend Saturday nights in if they're not producing, and if they're making good music, they deserve to be booked, regardless of whether or not they show up at your show or not.
Yeah, and even more so if they're actually drawing, you know, like, or in fact a draw, then I don't know why anybody would have any problem if they're actually going to get some heads through the door. You know,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, 100%, man. So, well, interesting. That's the most recent thing on your Facebook. I thought it was a good one, and just wanted to take a second to chat about that a little bit. What about breakbeat in the mainstream, man? I know there's been a lot in there. You yourself have written, I believe, several of your articles. I know one, in fact, for sure, was pretty widely trafficked. You know, what's the aftermath of that been? I think it was about a year ago or so, right?
That was actually 2 years ago. It was closer to when I first started working at Insomniac, and
okay.
I was doing track reviews at the time, and I kind of turned that one in on a whim, just saying, hey, I want to feature 3 breakbeat artists that I think everybody should listen to. And this whole breakbeat thing, you know, we've been kind of the underdog of dance music for quite a while now, and that's was slowly starting to change, and now it seems to be a little bit more rapid. Specifically, I was at EDC, and I heard breaks everywhere I went. And 2 years ago, that probably wouldn't have been the case, because what you get a lot of is 4-on-the-floor stuff going on. So,
yeah, I heard. Somebody sent me a video link of Tommy Sunshine playing some breaks.
Yeah, he played some breaks. I mean, I heard,
awesome.
Of course, Jaws played some. I heard OK play some. I heard him from every sector, from a lot of the stages. So
well, cool.
That was
so your article on a whim hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and it was luckily widely shared by Stanton Warriors and DJ Icy, Decline, yourself, Marten Hørger. A lot of people shared it. It actually ended up doing really well for the 3 artists that I featured. They all saw like their SoundClouds blow up during the weeks following that. It ended up being the most shared and viewed article on the site for that week. So that one actually kind of put me over the edge. That's what got me working with the Stanton Warriors and with Decline, and kind of put me in the position to do what I'm doing with Insomniac now. And, you know, all I was trying to do was let people know that, hey, breakbeat's fucking awesome, so listen to it, and hear the guys that are doing it big.
Yeah, man. Well, I thought it was a great article, and I thought it supported things. You know, now the flip side of articles like that, or really any article, I shouldn't say like that, but just any article is, and I'm interested in the first-hand perspective on this from you.
Yep.
You get a lot of publicity, and then you probably know what I'm about to say, and then you get all these people that are like, they tell you all the other people that have worked forever in that particular, you know, in this case breakbeat, that didn't get mentioned. So like, and then there's all other kinds of things that people want to shed their professional opinion on as well that you left out. You know, how does that feel? Like, you know, you get kind of this cat and mouse on an article like that, right? When it's a great article.
Well, you do, but here's the thing, and this is what I always tell people. The 3 people I picked for clear and specific reasons. They're doing something completely different in the scene. I wanted to pick faces that may not get a lot of press throughout the wider scene. Like Wuki, for example, at that time, he was doing great. Like, he already signed to Mad Descent, he already signed to Ausla, but he said he saw a surge in and breakbeat people going to his page because they hadn't found him yet.
Right.
Marten Hørger, for example, saw a surge on the other side in the mainstream audience coming because it was published to Insomniac. So really what I'm doing is I'm probably trying to promote people that are doing something different. Yes, there's thousands of people I could have featured, but you can't get everybody all the time, man.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
fully
just the way the
understand.
cookie crumbles.
Yeah, I fully understand that, and in fact, for me, that was I knew Marten and the Stanton Warriors guys in Decline and whatnot, but I didn't really know Wuki, and that article, the irony in that was that kind of turned me on to a bit more what he was doing, and then we connected online, shared a little music, had a couple of brief chats, and it's cool, man. Like yeah. So that was a cool one, and appreciate you putting that kind of stuff out there and really putting a lot of thought into it. Having met you and having spoken with you some, and a lot of the reason I was looking forward to today, all those things being considered, I knew that a lot went into, your sort of selection process, not just that article, but I assume a bit more journalism, if you will, in the traditional sense, goes into your art of writing, and it's more of an art than it is just promotion.
Oh no, absolutely.
So
thank you, I appreciate that. That's nice to hear someone recognize that.
There's no doubt about it, man. What since then, what are some of the articles you've been kind of proud of that maybe some people could go check out, whether they're about or not, it doesn't matter.
Most recently, I've been doing a lot of interviews. I'd really invite everybody to go check out the Discovery Project on Insomniac.com. Almost everything on that side of the website is my writing, and I've gotten the chance to feature a lot of really cool artists that people may or may not know about. These are all artists that are signed to Insomniac's Discovery Project. It's basically a contest for their larger festivals where they submit a track and they submit a mix, and a team of people from Insomniac picks the best ones in their opinion. And they also get signed to their record label and to their agency, and some of them put out tracks on Insomniac. And I've gotten the chance to feature some really, really amazing artists in the last few years, or the last year or so, that, that I may not have heard if it hadn't been for this, and actually got a chance to, do email interviews with these guys and, chit-chat with them. So that's, a lot of my most important work is just talking to these people, talking to these guys and finding out what makes them tick. I do a lot of artist interviews on the other side too. There's a series they call Metronome, which features a mix and a short interview every week. And I've done a couple of those. I did one with Will Bailey, not Will Bailey anymore, Low Steppa. Did an interview with Motez. That is really super awesome. Actually, that's probably the favorite one I've done so far. So Motez actually emigrated to Australia from Iraq, and he spent most of his adult life in Iraq living in a war zone. So I kind of got the chance to talk to him about how he became a musician despite those kinds of barriers to entry, which are huge. It was really super inspiring talking to him, and the best part of that interview is I was actually in the trailer with him. It was before a show, so I really got a chance to go deep with the guy, and it's one of the better experiences I've had in this journey of writing, this short journey I've had so far.
Well, it sounds like a good spot for a guy that's that's got experience, not just music but life, and got your shit pretty together. I mean that in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being the guy that sort of, to a degree, is handling and responsible for how these people get represented, possibly in their first PR related thing, perhaps their largest, even though it may be their first and maybe their largest ever, running through the Insomniac world. So I think that as a curator of that and sort of caring for that type of thing, I think you're a great guy for that, man.
Well, it's been it's been just as good for me. It's just really truly inspiring to talk to all these artists.
Did you have interview and writing and these kinds of skills, or what did you do for education, or all how did that all go? Self-taught? What's the?
I've always loved writing. Actually, when I was a little kid, the only two things I really wanted to do with my life were write and to be in music, and somehow it worked out. You can tell
You can tell us all about the only thing. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but I don't have like a formal education in writing. I have an AA degree in mass communications. But I've the designated family proofreader of everything. My wife brings all of her writing to me to figure out. So it's just something I kind of fell into, and has worked out for me in the most amazing way.
Yeah, I would say, especially considering that it's within a subject matter that you really enjoy, not just the music, but people making music, and like you said, people who may be well established as well as kind of launching their careers or hoping to do that. Yeah, it's a neat place to be. Yeah, that's cool, man.
It's an amazing place to be. It's an amazing place to be.
So, what was I gonna? I was gonna mention to Kelly. We'll find a time for. We'll find a time for needle drops here soon. we've been Alex. I don't know how much Kelly told you, but so this is the 11th one of these that I've done, and in the beginning 3 or so we kept trying to actually do we would just review stuff we really liked, just basic music review and play a little clip, and then then we started having copyright problems with YouTube, so that didn't last long, and then we had to replace it with circus music or whatever. So now what we're doing, and so far is so good, since we had to quit that for a few episodes, and then we kind of the light came on and we're like, oh hey, we get all these promos sent to us, let's play some of them, because at that point they're probably not registered yet, how business works, and so at that point at the promo stage, unless they're an older promo, but if they're recent and have not been released yet, then it's likely they're not yet in the UPC system and all of that, and so that's worked so far.
That's good. And it probably for them counts as like radio airplay for them. That's something they could point to, be like, hey, look, these guys played my track. So
yeah,
it's a good thing.
So we'll break in a little bit and take a few minutes and listen to the agent's sleuthing top 5 or so, if you don't mind. You'll hear something new, maybe we could talk about like all the promos you have and I have, and which ones we do and don't have.
Oh yeah, for sure.
and then we don't swap any of them. So so hey man, I've had a along the lines of music, I've had this one of the topics you've caned about for a while is artist names, rebranding, people who have changed their names, these things, and I know you have some good info and opinions both on others, historically, as well as your own. So, what's going on with that?
I think it's been like a year or so now ago, I was talking to another producer friend of mine, and he asked me what was up with my name, and he was like, he just asked me, he's like, does it really resonate with you anymore? And I was like, in thinking about it, I'm not sure if it does or not. And it's kind of an interesting idea that, artists, likely at the beginning of their career, assign a name to themselves, and then if they stick with it, you always got to wonder, do they really like that name anymore, or are they just sticking with it because of branding? And then it kind of led me to figure out, hey, how many people are out there that have actually successfully changed their name? And this is another Facebook thread, so I just kind of put the question out there, and probably got 60 or 70 responses, and it just kept going. People kept talking about it.
It was huge. What are some of the ones share some of that knowledge, because I'm sure people listening would be interested to to hear some of those, because some of them surprised me. So what were a few of them in there that you hit the thing there?
So Castle, who's doing a lot of really awesome bass music right now, was formerly Be Rich, who kind of jumped on the baseline house thing with AC Slater early on. And prior to that, both of them had been producing hardcore. So that story in and of itself is pretty remarkable, to go from pretty much one opposite side of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah.
And clearly it was successful. Like, you know, changing his name, even at the height of his career, only propels him further. Who else? I mean, if you want to talk about people that have just kind of moved around within their name, the artists, the guys in Pendulum are now doing Knife Party. And one of the guys branched out on his own. KJ Saka is doing his own thing. So that's kind of a branding change itself, which has been really interesting because, again, kind of in the same spectrum of music, but they've still been hugely successful, you know, at that level, making a name change and kind of dropping what they used to do before.
Yeah. So, and I think some of the others you said were like, was Chris Lorenzo one of them? I like his music a lot.
Somebody, I can't remember what his name was before, but somebody did bring that up, that Chris Lorenzo has produced under monikers before. Interesting thing about Chris Lorenzo is, even pertaining to the name change, you could insert any bass house producer, UK bass house producer's name over Chris Lorenzo and realize that he probably produced their tracks. So he's one of the most prolific ghostwriters in the industry, but that's a story for another time.
Yeah, sure.
Will Bailey.
Yeah. Well, so that's cool. I mean, 3 or 4, and I think was Control Z or
Control. Okay, yeah, there we go. Control. Okay, so there's a progression to that. Cut and Run. If you're a breakbeat person, you know Cut and Run has some really classic records. Well, Cut and Run became Control Z, became Pyramid, became Nicky De Silva. And Nicky De Silva is the real name of the guy pretty much behind all of those projects.
Wow.
And now he's moved from chair out breaks to 140 breaks, and now he's doing drum and bass under his own name. So that's a long progression. He's actually, under all those names, really just produced a lot of fucking classic music in break.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, one that I know of for sure. Well, in addition to I knew who those people were, but I didn't know all the history that you just shed. But I was always a fan of Elite Force, and clearly, you know, Simon Shackleton. His real name has
Zodiac.
Has emerged, and he's got a couple other alias, I think, as well, right?
Zodiac Cartel is another one of his. And Lunatic Calm was the first thing that he was doing anything under, and he actually played the first Coachella as Lunatic Calm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man,
so,
that's some history right there.
Yeah. So I mean, lot of people.
The way I knew about his earliest days were from I was reading some articles. I don't think they were Insomniac related, but they were on some websites about, you know, music sites, maybe Resident Advisor or something. I don't know. But it was an article by him, because I've really enjoyed his producer tutorials. I think he's a phenomenal producer, and he's always
he's a genius.
His tutorials that I've watched through I don't think they're actually Sonic Academy, but whoever they farm those tutorials from, it's like someone else publishes them, but then they basically resell them or something. So there's a few he's done there, and particularly ones on mashups and whatnot, which back in the day he got quite a bit of steam in his career doing those before really a lot of people were doing those in the quote unquote EDM market versus more hip hop and that kind of stuff. You know, or top 40 open format, you know, edits and mixes. He was doing that, right? So he's like the godfather on that, man. If anybody listening wants to go, like, just skip all the whatever, go get like the $20 or whatever it is, you know, episodes of Simon Shackleton. It's as Elite Force at the time, doing, you know, talking all about studio work with mashups. I mean, he goes through every last little like switch button and click. Using Ableton, I think maybe 7 or 8 at the time, to date it a little bit, but it's still all very valid information in terms of all of the types of analysis he's doing and just the depth to which he gets into it from a really a scientific level. It's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Even from kind of a publishing and more on the business side, it's pretty remarkable that he was able to suss out 2 full albums of those and release them on Beatport as official releases, and he was able to get permission from all of these artists to be like, hey, can I release this mashup I did of you and you and you and you? And that really, really pushed his career pretty high, and especially being able to like do official releases of a lot of those tunes, because that's not something.
No question about it.
Yeah, you're not going to see that often, if at all, in the industry.
Yeah, and I think part of that was because, like I was saying, it wasn't as much volume. There was no SoundCloud. There weren't these mediums for everyone to just go hog wild, right? So he was doing it at a time where, maybe he had connections obviously within the industry, UK and US. Right. He had toured, I think, as Lunatic Calm. The article I was alluding to, he had toured with the Crystal Method for a summer, so he clearly had good connections. And the Crystal Method are masters of licensing and collaborations with official collaborations with typically with people that have nothing to do with electronic music. And so I've never spoken to Simon, but perhaps some of that rubbed off on him, or both ways, both directions. And maybe at the time, pure speculation, but it would totally make sense. There were just less people doing it, and it would be more approachable to get exposure for an artist at that time in this what was emerging, EDM, quote unquote, at the time, right? So.
No, absolutely.
Now it's like now it's like people are like now it's like fishing through like the perfect storm of God knows what to try to get clearance for anything.
Oh no, it's next to impossible. I mean, even if you get clearance for it, you post it up on SoundCloud, and it's still pretty much going to probably get pulled down the next day, and then you're going to have to prove that you either got clearance for it or that this is in fact a Sychosis track. And if you look at that name right there on my SoundCloud, it says Sychosis. So why are you telling me I can't upload my own track?
Yeah. Well, unless of course they're signed to a label that owns them, but that's
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I know you understand, and I think that's one of those things that I think so many people just don't understand. And when this kind of thing has come up, these more music business or entertainment business type issues, I always recommend that people go nothing to do with producing or DJing. Like go take one music business class, whatever community college you live near, they've got them. No. You can go online and do it, but if you don't like that, every community college, like in any remote, like first or second tier market city, has got a community college that's doing some kind of music business class, and it's just a great thing to do because for me, I mean, I took it a long time ago, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all these things. I still have to go ask people certain things. But what I find is I don't waste much time worrying about these debates because I know that, I've been exposed to the fact that there's so much complexity behind, what may be, in fact, an overly complex copyright system, but it's the one we've got.
Absolutely.
So,
so we kind of have to figure out. That's one of the best things I ever did was taking a music business class. I learned a lot more than I thought I would. Where did you take one at? Chabot College in Hayward, California. And I actually had the opportunity of working with a guy who owned his own studio for a number of years and has worked with people from all forms from the industry. So once a week, we had an actual artist come in and talk to us about their experiences within the music industry. So it was awesome to not only get like the perspective of a studio owner and kind of the textbook perspective of what it is, but also see some real life examples of successes and failures within the industry and how those things can either be repeated or they can be prevented, respectively.
Yeah, and so by having that experience, we share that. And so for me, like, I plan better. I do agreements for everything. If I don't do those, basic 5 steps that you get taught in that kind of situation, and then you hear from experience from real artists, I know if I don't do those things, then whatever comes out of it you know, just call it a day, let it go, and move on.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
absolutely.
Like, you have no grounds, so just don't, you know, there's no point in getting all upset about the fact that you put your life's labor into whatever it was, and then full well you know that it runs that risk. So yeah, so I don't, you know, outside of these discussions with people that have so far been, you know, a pretty well experienced, you know, artists or promoters or business people out there. I don't get too hyped or involved with it online. It's just it's that hamster wheel conversation, you know.
No, absolutely. Actually, speaking to that specifically to SoundCloud, I wrote an article about I titled it "How I Learned to Stop Worrying About SoundCloud Takedowns."
I saw that. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I didn't read it yet, but
it got published on AskAudio.com, and basically it's kind of a rundown of the most common complaints about SoundCloud and other streaming sites, and why those things really don't matter, and how you can be successful in the music industry despite the fact that we have a very imperfect system and a very complicated copyright system. So there's some really good tips in there, you know, one of which being going direct to fan is super important for artists. You know, having a functioning website and a functioning email list, because once you get control of your email list, people don't change their email addresses, so you have them as a fan forever, as opposed to Facebook or SoundCloud, which, you know, in the next year could fall apart completely, if history is any indication as to what could happen to a social media site. So
yeah,
you know,
So go ahead. I think you got cut off. Sorry.
Oh no, I was done.
Oh, cool, man. We always have a little delay here. You know, one of the things I love about like doing this is I've been a techie forever, man, and I when I got into listening to podcasts was quite a while ago, and I always wanted to do something. I've worked in tech, you know, like I've done all kinds of things that I've talked about a lot of them on this show before, so I always wanted to kind of do something music related. I did a couple blogs, wrote some things, you know, nothing ever like you've been doing, and then I finally was like, you know what, like the technology is not quite, it's not quite professional yet, but when Google Hangouts came out, which is what we used to do the initial recording, and then we publish it through my website to the podcast and iTunes and Google Play and all these other things. But
Right.
The initial recording technology is pretty basic, man. You know, and it's like, and that's it. You know, like I refuse to like do any better than that because I know that will get better. And a perfect example, I forgot. You know, you can see in the background with me, and I mentioned before we got on that I'm actually in Big Bear Lake, in California, and you know, first of all, it blows my mind that I'm actually using a Verizon MiFi, like, you know, broadband, you know, hotspot to broadcast this from inside of an aluminum Airstream trailer in the middle of Big Bear Lake, where there's no cell phone service. So, yeah, I mean, I've got no Wi-Fi. I'm like sitting inside the trailer. That's what you see behind me, like the stove over here, and there's a bed right behind me and a toilet back there. So I'm like sitting in the dinette area. I had to clear it out so I'd have some space. And but anyway, to the point about the podcasting and stuff, I just think it's so amazing, man, that we're able to do this kind of stuff. And you're obviously in your car, and you know, Kelly's sitting on a boat in New York.
Right?
Like that's what's up.
It's pretty amazing. That's actually something I'm looking to get into pretty soon as well myself. Is podcasting.
Well, awesome, dude. I mean, I will if it's a podcast that people who wear Sesame Street shirts are allowed on, then I'd be happy to come on sometime.
Oh no, I'd be happy to have you, man.
Yeah. Hey, so I just found, while we were chatting, I found that article that you posted on your Facebook page, and your artist page, and I shared that out. So, you know, hopefully some more people will see that too, and
awesome.
Pick that up. That'd be cool. Yeah. So I kind of lost track of where I was. Where were we, man? Where are we, Kelly? Is it Agent 137 Needle Drop time? You want to listen to a little music, Alex?
Yeah, listen to some music.
Cool, man.
Sure.
Rock and roll, Agent.
All right, I'm on, huh? All right, let me pull up my music here. Okay, so the first one is, I believe, from Gigabeat. Yeah, Gigabeat, and it is. All right, you caught me off guard here. It's Shade K. It's called Funk Soul, and it's the Who's Who remix. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready, do it.
I'm gonna scrub it out a little bit. I think it's pretty nasty. There's a couple other. There's the original.
Yeah, that's dirty. That's dirty.
Yeah, I really like that.
Hold on a second. How'd you like that one, Alex?
No, actually, I'm really digging that. I'm loving that. That bass line sounds pretty amazing. I love the stop-start going on, how the bass line matches up with everything else. I would play that.
There's a Columbo remix as well, and then of course the original. But then Wes, it looks like you got a couple of little submissions from people that weren't going through a label. So I don't know if you know who Leroy Thornhill is, but
I do.
Oh, no, he was only in the Prodigy. No big deal.
Only.
That's all.
So it's called Say It Again, and it's pretty dope. And I'm gonna scrub this one too.
Nice.
We'll be together. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, and you can't hear. I've heard a lot of these obviously in the studio. You can't hear the whole dynamic range on that one, and with all with kind of our ghetto tech here for the call. But that one's gonna be hot, man. I enjoyed that one.
What I love about Leroy's music is that I don't know if this is a good descriptor, but it always sounds just a little bit gangsta. And I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but it has that kind of that swing to it, that just enough dirt to make it just gangster, to get that lean on. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
All right, and I have one more. This is on to Mike. That's Mike Sowards, right? Sowards, is that how you say it?
I'm not sure how to. Is that how you say it? Okay.
Okay, and it's called This Is How We Do. Heavy Miami bass on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how that one hits. I wasn't expecting.
I like that.
That's what I got for the needle job.
Very nice.
So
Nice.
Remind me real quick again, Kelly. I just want to. I always like to give a shout out to these people, but who was the first one? It was.
The first one is Shade K with.
Right.
And that is I've not heard of who this is before. It was the Who's Who, WHOSHOO exclamation point remix, but that was through Gig.
Yeah.
That was called Funk Soul. I believe it's out July 25th.
Nice.
And then the second one was Leroy Thornhill called Say It Again. And the third one is called This Is How We Do by On Da Mike. ONDAMIKE.
Oh yeah, I did a remix for him. It's Mike Sowards, yeah. And so that's
yeah.
Yeah, cool. That was a while ago. In fact, actually, it's funny you played that because the remix I did was Work It. It was a song a couple years back, and then so Alex, you know I've talked to you a number of times about the whole video game project and all that stuff, the tabletop racing. But anyway, so they're going to do the first release of it was, you know, the main game and then related soundtracks and stuff, and then I'm learning a lot about the video game world, you know, as an artist / consumer, and then they do these download content packs, which are like, you know, new race courses and whatever, you know, themes and paint jobs for cars and all that kind of stuff. But then they're also going to put new music. So there'll be about 10 new songs on the DLC 2 that's coming out. There were some on the DLC 1. Anyway, that Work It track is pretty likely going to be on there, which you know, I was pretty stoked about that because he's a good guy. Mike is also what's the label, Kelly? That he's
is it Ravesta?
Yeah, Ravesta. Yeah. Definitely played some stuff off their label over the years.
Yeah, me too. They're good guys over there too.
Well, cool. Nice. So is that the picks for the week, Kelly?
Those are the picks for the week. Thank you very much.
Sweet. So I continue to catch her off guard.
It's okay.
You know, in case you haven't noticed, Alex, our lack of scripting for any of this is if it's not evident, then that she has no idea when I'm going to spring that on her. But thanks for hanging out during that and giving us a couple little comments and junk back.
Sure.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
Yeah. So
I do have one question. Did you cover whether or not you were going to actually be changing your name, Alex?
So I'm gonna test the waters. Is what I'm gonna do. I have a project that I'm working on right now with the person that I had spoken about before. We have a project together up for release. Under how it goes. If it sticks, then it sticks. If not, I can always just stick to this name. I'm not going to make a solid decision at this point. Because, you know, I've put a lot of work into developing Sychosis. So,
yeah,
who's
for sure.
to say? You know, who's to say at this level a name change may or may not do me any good?
I think also now, and you and I have discussed this back and forth a lot through Messenger, but you know, back when people started to DJ, we didn't necessarily have the internet, you know, and not in the way that it is utilized now, and you also didn't have a platform called Facebook that makes you use your real name. So I think now, you know, like Wes uses his name, obviously. I don't use my real name, but I think a lot of people know me by Kelly Ross, not necessarily my DJ name as much. I don't know. That's what I assume. And I think that a lot of people know you, especially since your writing is on, you know, Insomniac, and you're writing that under your name. Then that I think you know, we've talked about this a lot back and forth, but that was kind of what was the springing board of why we wanted to bring you on here too. So I didn't want to just like dance over it. But no, that's cool. I think that, you know, also too, one of the things that I read in a class that I took is that Japanese artists, you know, throughout their entire careers, once they get to a certain amount of skill, then they change their name. Like that's an actual thing, and I'm pretty sure that that's what they do. But once they get to a certain level of mastery, then they change their name to something that's more suited towards them, that they feel. Because I know when I chose mine, I was like, all right, let's pick something, and we had a bunch of friends sitting around, and you know, like, what should I name myself? You know, I didn't have anything, and I was actually named by friends. So
yeah, that's kind of what happened to me too, and it was so long ago. And I feel like you know, 15 years ago, so you kind of like fall into a space where you develop your own personal style that may or may not reflect the name that you were given or that you gave yourself. And that may point to why you see so many artists, and this is like a hotly debated topic as well, making stylistic changes in their career and then changing their name as a result of that. Or not changing their name but still making a stylistic change, and people feel like they've sold out or they've abandoned their audience. And it's, no, you know, just as an artist you grow and you change, and sometimes everything needs to change right along with it.
Yeah, I mean, people can't be expected to keep the same ideas their entire life.
No, absolutely not.
You know, like, so it's like, yeah, I think, you're gonna have, circles, concentric circles of levels of fans, friends, etc. through anything
Right.
you do in life, the ones that kind of continue to roll with you through any of that are, probably in that first circle, and there'll definitely be some that don't like whatever you do anymore. I've done a number of different alias names over the years, and I enjoyed whatever I was doing at that time, and totally fine, and I just ended up using my name because nobody ever gave me a name, so I was like, well, I can't make up my own name, so I was like, because that was just like at the time that was like the #1 rule is like you can't make up your own like handle, dude. Like it's like a playa name for Burning Man. They're like, you can't make up your own playa name.
No, it's got to be gifted, right?
Yeah. So I didn't have one, that was even remotely sensible. So yeah, I just went with my name. And the other thing, like Kelly was mentioning, is it was driving me so crazy to have like I couldn't figure out. And there's clearly people way smarter than I that maybe have reconciled how to deal with this, but I couldn't figure out in the world of social media how to manage the difference between my real me and whatever I do out in the world. I still don't. So I just settled on it. Here's my name, and I may talk about one subject matter a lot more than another, but I still kind of funnel whatever it is that I'm gonna put online. It just ends up under my name in one of those couple channels. So like maybe Twitter is a little heavier, one type of thing. Like I watch a lot of UFC fights and all that kind of stuff, so my Twitter will have a little bit more of that stuff on it.
Well, I think that's kind of an interesting point too, is that when you have an alias, I don't think you necessarily need to like censor who you are, because that alias is just another part of who you are. So like having to run this filter, I mean, I see artists do this a lot, where you look at their personal page and you'll see political posts and this and this and that, and then on their artist page, it's just music. And
Right.
I got to be honest with you, it's a little boring to me when I go to an artist page and the only thing that they post about is their tracks, because I feel like, maybe open up the window a little bit and talk about something else every once in a while. I mean, you don't have to be posting you don't have to get super political or anything, but it'd be nice to. I'd like to hear from artists. I like to hear from the artist's voice every once in a while, and actually feel like
a little bit more the real deal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just not, for me, like I'm just not the kind of person that it's got nothing to do with artist or otherwise. I just personally don't really enjoy getting into big online debates, right? So I don't do it,
Right.
I might talk about stuff on here, or certainly, this is as close to in person as we've been in a while, but on the 10-hour drive from San Diego to Black Rock City with Kelly, I mean, God, we covered, we got into it on some stuff, right? But like that's just my style, right? So I think it's totally fine if people's style is to get crazy online every day. It's all good. DJ without their shirt on or whatever's going on in their life. It's crazy, man. But yeah, that's an interesting observation, from you on that point, and I certainly feel whether it was my real name or not, like I certainly feel like at least the way I'm currently promoting myself, things I am willing to share that are unrelated to music, I do think that, they make sense. And like when I go play shows, people ask me, like they don't comment maybe as much as they might on the music stuff or whatever, but
right.
Online. But then when I see them at a show, it surprises me that people will be like, oh, dude, I grew up in Big Bear Lake or whatever, just some kind of connection, which I think has made what has typically always been a little bit awkward, going to a new event where you don't know anybody, you don't know any of the people, you show up and you're going to play, like that's always a little awkward, man, and I'm fairly outgoing, but I've always found that a little awkward to like get right into the mix chatting about stuff, when all they know about you is your last few releases, or maybe like with all due respect, a great mix on the Armory podcast, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what I've started to find, is that regardless of the name I'm using, like you're going to try some things, I think your point about sharing a little bit of real life is it's just human. I don't think it's a great marketing idea. I think it's just human.
No, it's just human. And I think that's what it's nice to see people be genuine, especially in an industry that often gets labeled as anything but. So having people be genuine and sincere about their words, even if they're still talking about music, just feeling like that person is sincere and thankful and genuine is.
Absolutely.
I think it should be important.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the things I definitely love the most about the proliferation of internet and all related technologies is that these things are accessible. Does it mean that everyone's going to follow you? No, but 10 years ago, pre-good internet, let's just say,
right.
If you were being handled by a manager or an agent and you're going to do a press kit, like whatever went into that was all that anybody would ever know about you, dude.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. There was no way for them to find out anything.
Yeah, it's true.
So I think that personally, I believe that what's one of the greatest results of all this, I think, aside from just like you're saying, being a bit more genuine, sharing some of life, maybe there's some commonalities between you and some music enthusiasts / fans, and then I think a result of it is, if you are genuine, I think you're going to have a much longer run at whatever it is you're doing, whether it's music or whatever, poetry or fighting or whatever, because people actually kind of know you a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we're social beings. We want to connect with people, and when you feel like you know an artist, even if they're not always doing everything you're feeling, like that even if they're not doing something that you necessarily feel at the time, you just kind of feel it. It's nice to feel a connection to somebody else in the world, especially if they're doing something amazing.
Absolutely. Hey, on that note, we had a very brief commentary, and I think you talked with Kelly some more in depth, but about which kind of falls right in line with what we're talking about. We're almost talking about the abolishment of musical elitism, but I know that topic's also somewhat near and dear to you. So what are some of your thoughts on what still exists, I guess, as musical elitism?
Well, first let me say, for anybody who really loves music, I feel like that can be a constant battle, because you're always walking this line between this is the one thing that I really, really like, and you hear something else and you're like, oh God, I hate this so much, I just want to say something about it. And the whole idea behind just giving up musical elitism kind of centers around the fact that kind of looking at different music through a different lens sometimes, and trying to understand that there may be a time and a place for specific music. So when I first started going to raves 17 years ago, I loved happy hardcore. And there was a point in time where I would never admit that I loved happy hardcore. And then I went to EDC and I heard it and I was like, yeah, this isn't so bad. I was in line for a Ferris wheel. I got to listen to it. It's no big deal. Right. There's a time and a place for that. It's making people happy. I don't need to hate the fact that somebody's art is making people happy. I'd rather talk about things that I like. And then I got the chance to interview a happy hardcore DJ and listen to his mix all the way through yesterday, and I was like, hey, I actually enjoyed this, and it's because I decided to give up the idea that music has to be cool, or this is cool, this is not cool. I was just like, hey, let me see if I can enjoy this in some way, and I did. And it'll kind of open up your eyes to a lot of new stuff out there that you may not have normally have listened to, had it not been for your ego.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I think from anyone aspiring or perhaps having a brain block writing and thinking about music, I think you're totally right, and that's something that couldn't be more beneficial than to just listen to whatever's around you at the time, and then if you're not exposed to a lot of different music just by nature of whatever you're doing anyway, then make some effort to to maybe follow the road less traveled for yourself anyway, and go check out some stuff. Yeah, man. I mean, I it's probably evident, but like I listen to a ton of like punk rock, from the 80s. A lot of reggae, a lot of and I know a lot of people do, but like you said, I used to find it surprising when when that would surprise them. I guess they thought maybe all I ever listened to was breakbeat.
Well, I think that's something and it's funny too, because in talking to artists, one of the questions that I always want to ask them is, what are you listening to that's not electronic?
Yeah.
You get some really widely varied answers from some really specific places. People are listening to. There's so much music out there, and I know we get isolated into this idea of like, oh, all anybody listens to is electronic music, and it's just not true. There's a whole wide world out there. So don't let anything get in the way of you branching out and listening to something new every day, or listening to something old and appreciating it again.
So musical elitism, that term you're kind of talking about within somebody's own, sort of own self, being a bit standoffish to or not open to sort of experiencing new styles and whatnot. Is that a kind of accurate or more
Absolutely.
to it than that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear people be a little bit less salty about music because, a lot of it is meant for you to have a good time. Like, and if you kind of look at it through that lens, it's real easy to appreciate a lot of things.
I don't see where it pays to go on a social media account and bash anything else that isn't, because anything that you don't really know that much about, and this is what you're saying about putting a positive spin on it, and all three of us have talked about something like this too. Going on there and bashing something that just because you don't like it doesn't make sense. And then a lot of people read that, and what we find is that you're going to get the people, when you put out something negative like that, the people that are going to comment on it are the ones that agree with you. So you've got, the yaysayers. But then the rest of us read something like that, and we kind of, Wes and I have talked about this, we write off people. Like, it's just way too negative of an energy for it to be even out there. It just doesn't make sense. So I think what people don't realize is that they might have all these people supporting them and liking these posts, where if you put out something positive, people might not like it as much, but they're reading it and saying, "Oh wow, that person is a more positive person."
Well,
about something.
Yeah, and one of the people that came to mind when you talk about this sort of breaking down this boundary of musical elitism, and I say part of this, I don't know him that well, but it's Crafty Cuts, and he comes from the heyday. If there was a heyday of breakbeat ever, that guy was on top of that pile. There's no doubt about it, right?
No, absolutely.
At least in America, like, nobody would argue with that. I mean, you could throw out Stanton Warriors and others as well that were up there, but Plumps, whatever. But Crafty, without question, was at least on the same podium level, and still is. And my point about him in this topic is that, I don't know if you've ever listened to his Golden Era podcast.
I love those mixes.
Yeah, and to me that's one of the best representations. Like I know I've never heard him play live. I've heard him maybe 10 times over the years, and so a lot of it being music conference and stuff like that. But a couple times in Washington D.C. But so I would never expect that he's playing shows that are what his Golden Era podcast is. But the concept of his Golden Era podcast, those mixes, a lot of time goes into it. And you're right. If you start listening, you're like, this is rubbish, because like the most recent one, it's a lot of soul, roots, and R&B, jams, right? Like the originals that a lot of the samples came from, that are the songs that people actually know today. So that's a lot of what it is. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. When he first sent it to me, I couldn't listen right away, because when I started listening, I realized, it's a Golden Era one. I'm gonna have to pick like the morning or something when I'm when I'm in the mood to hear, listen to this vibe, because I knew it would be good.
Right.
I'm gonna be like ready for club crafty, and where I might not appreciate it as much. Anyway, I love that mix. He's done a hip hop one, a bunch of others, and I think that's a great example of a guy, who has you know, sort of intentionally or not, lived through the battles of the breakbeat elitism, and he's doing other stuff, you know, and he's for the better for doing that.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. That guy is an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to music. I mean, he really knows about stuff all across the board. And I gotta respect the fact that not only does he love all kinds of music, but he puts it out there, like putting out these mixes, and they're hugely popular now too.
They're wild, man.
Yeah, and it may not seem like a popular move, but it really is. It's great to find, to go back to the roots and hear.
His golden era hip hop hit #1 on iTunes podcasts.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
Music podcasts. Yeah.
It's truly some amazing work. Like he's always been top notch. Like you said, he's always been top notch. So I gotta respect anybody that's able to do stuff like that. Him and people like Z-Trip who's always done that kind of thing himself is really kind of amazing to me too.
Hey, speaking of Z-Trip, well, a synapse from Z-Trip, but somewhat related. Have you watched that recent to me, it might be a year or so out, but the DJ AM, I think it's As I Am is the name of the documentary. Have you watched that?
The DJ AM documentary, no, but it's come so highly recommended that I need to watch it.
You gotta the next thing you stop and watch in documentary where you got some time, you gotta watch it, man.
I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, I only knew of him when I lived in New York, and he blew up, and he had a club there that I believe was an extension of the really big LA club that he was doing.
Right.
And so it was a little bit too frenzied for me at that time with what I was doing in New York, in terms of kind of really getting into it. But watching the history of it, I can totally piece together, and especially watching, I think Z-Trip's got a little cameo in there talking about him, and Steve Aoki and Diplo and others, and just hearing the story about how all that comes together musically, in addition to sort of his life, it's really good. In the music documentary section, especially DJ-centric music documentary section, I highly recommend it.
Nice. That's nice. Yeah, I've heard some really amazing things about him. He was an insanely interesting person to begin with, so I can only imagine what his journey was like.
Yeah, I won't spoil it all. As much as it excites me, check it out when we do this show again. We'll or maybe on yours when you get that going, we'll
we can talk about that.
We'll dissect documentaries.
All right, we can do that for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. So actually, one of the things they talk about in there, which I'm just kind of like going back to something you and I were talking about before today, was they talk about the LA rave scene, and then how AM and others kind of preceded the birth of what is now EDC and other parties. I learned all this from watching this, as well as listening to Pasquale on a conference session a couple weeks back in LA or in Las Vegas, but about the whole birth of the LA music scene and the celebrity participation aspect of it, all that. But it brings me to EDC having emerged out of all of that, basically being kicked out of LA, right? Like, do you know that ended up in Vegas?
Do I know how?
Yeah, like, do you just know more of the story behind, EDC was in LA? Clearly, LA's got the room to throw a party that big.
They do, but they had at the time when EDC made the move from LA to Vegas, they had people in government that weren't entirely stoked on having massive raves happen of that scale, in LA all the time. And there's the things that go along with large-scale events that sometimes happen, the unfortunate things, people passing away, arrests, people sneaking in. So I think in moving to Vegas, not only did they escape a lot of that kind of anger and hate towards what they were doing from the city government, but they were able to create an event on a scale like most people will ever see in their entire lives. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's huge. It is. I've been to Burning Man, and the stages for EDC trump anything I've seen at any other festival ever. I mean, the Kinetic Field stage this year was 100 feet tall by 400 feet wide.
They're insane, man. They're insane. And I've only been to Burning Man twice. I may go this year.
Yeah.
And I don't even really put of all the festivals I've been to, or week-long parties, whatever you want to call them. I probably wouldn't lump Burning Man as even in the same category. Not because of size, but because of the nature of how it all comes together.
Absolutely, completely different.
Yeah, I don't think you do either. But a good comparison point, if you've been to Burning Man and you've never been to a really large, what I would call commercial festival, in the traditional sense, yeah, it's got to be mind blowing. I've never been to EDC. The biggest I've been to was when I lived back in New York. They had a thing, Zootopia or something. It was on Governor's Island back there.
Oh, Governor's Island, right.
Yeah, Insomniac might have even actually bought out that franchise. They had a problem. Someone died one year. A lot of bad press. But I know that now I believe EDC's got an EDC New York now. I don't know if there's any relationship or anything happened there, but
EDC's moved into a ton of different markets. I think I'm not sure if they were doing EDC New York at the same time as that one.
I never saw it. I lived there, and I never heard the word EDC ever since I lived there.
Yeah, so it was probably maybe 3 years ago that they started doing EDC New York.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just the scale of it, and we're talking about 150,000 people a day.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude.
It's just insane. It's really insane. And
what else can you tell us about I don't know if EDC is the right word or Insomniac's the right word, but you mentioned expansion. They're in a lot of places. Like, what do you how much knowledge do you have about what's out there and available, what they're doing, not hidden shit, but what's already out there that they're doing beyond Las Vegas?
They're doing any number of shows all the time. So besides the EDC brands and the various different EDCs they do throughout the year, there are other scale events beyond Wonderland and Nocturnal. They have city-specific events that they do all over the country. They're doing an event in Houston for the first time ever. They regularly do events in San Francisco. They do events. I mean, they're popping up all over the country. Actually, San Diego at Basement. They're going to be doing something there. They're moving into Florida right now. They're going to be doing something in Tampa. A monthly thing in Tampa.
Orlando. I think I've been seeing EDC Orlando advertise it. I follow on Instagram.
That's it. EDC Orlando is going to be in October, and then they're starting this summer a monthly thing at the former Hogan's Beach Club in Tampa, Florida.
Nice.
So besides the large-scale events, Insomniac is basically just trying to put themselves in every major market, or even some of the non-major markets, things that are up and coming, and do something there. And of course, in LA, they have weekly and monthly events that they do at various different clubs in LA. So they've really just spread themselves all over the country. And said, hey, we want to.
When I was listening to Pasquale talk, he spoke for about an hour and a half on a whole bunch of topics. He was, I want to say Jason Bentley was interviewing him, but it was someone else. But yeah, he talked about, I think he said that they have 140 employees, something like that. So that's a lot of people, and I think he might have meant full-time on that. So that's a lot of people project managing all that stuff. Clearly it takes that. From anything I've been to, they do a really professional job. So,
well,
cool stuff.
The company runs like a well-oiled machine, and I can say that from having worked with them, everything is so well organized. It's pretty impressive too, having been in the rave scene for so long, and kind of looking at where we all came from. Because in the late '90s, I can't say much of anything was was very well organized. But it was about as organized as a 20-year-old could handle.
Well, there was no money. There was no money unless you were unless the promoter was selling pills. There was no money, dude.
No, absolutely. So it's just amazing to see. It's amazing to see how far it's come in the States. Because I mean, at that time, Europe was already, on their way to doing the things that we're doing now in the States. So it's nice to be in the United States, see electronic music, be in that space where it's like, hey, this is not only a viable art form, but it's a viable business to be in now, because there really was no business before.
Well, and I think it's fantastic to see, you know, a couple generations out there at these big shows being managed really well, and they're not complaining about the fact that it's, you know, maybe a bit Disney World-ish in terms of its over-management, whatever. They're safe. They're a fun place to be. If anything, you could argue that they really are maybe more about the music than they used to be.
Oh, I would have to say that that's definitely true, and
yeah,
we have social media to thank for that. I mean, because
I'm sure I could piss some people off saying that, but you hear the opposite most of the time. Is, you know, oh, dude, it used to be about the music. Well, honestly,
no, it still is.
You know, when I was coming through the ranks, I got to tell you, there wasn't a whole lot about the music, to be honest. And now,
no, it wasn't. No, now it is.
Yeah, and now because it's been cleaned up, it's got to be about the music. You know? Yeah,
no, absolutely. And these kids know about every artist at every level way more than I did at that age.
I agree.
It's amazing. It's amazing to hear that these kids can cherry pick from 250 artists who their favorite ones are, and some of them might be obscure. And I'm like, that's great. Like, you really care about this, and I appreciate that. Like, you know, again, like you said, some people may say otherwise, but I mean, I've talked to these fans. They know their shit.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is, I think there's a couple, you know, issues, good, bad, or indifferent, that go along with that perception in my mind and what I've watched, as, you know, not being a 20-something who's now, you know, who's playing, you know, nice shows and stuff, you know, some big, some small, whatever, an array, and almost, you know, like. And it's a result of what Insomniac has done, right? It's like developed this whole market for American artists to play in America, which to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot of that before. So I mean, we still have UK headliners and you know, Swedish and Germany and wherever, and those are all awesome too. And a lot of those are the biggest at the top of the pile, and that's all good. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of room. You know, and there's a lot of, you know, homegrown, meaning just North American artists, really having a good go and a good time out there. You know, so, but one of the things I was going to say about that's just more, I'm thankful for that from the Insomniac sort of halo perspective. But the other thing I was going to say is, like, the reality, you and I probably, you know, really we both get this, is that, you know, if you don't go out today really much, and you're kind of living through social media. And, you know, and you're not seeing all this through the same sort of, you know, whatever you were induced by at the time when it was where you feel was the best.
Right.
In addition to substances, your friends who all, you know, believed in the same things you did, the ideologies of your circle of friends. So if you don't have the ideology of your circle of friends, and you're not really going out to these things, and you're observing them from the comfort of your 42-inch television, if that's your scenario, then I can totally see how, like, you know, whatever you're seeing makes no effing sense. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. It's interesting to be in a place now where you can observe that and say, okay, well, you know, I'd rather be open to all these experiences and seeing how great they really are, because it took a long time for the States to be able to have something like this, and it should be cherished, really should, because you know, we're lucky to have such a vibrant electronic music scene in the United States right now. Like, this is the favorite place for the European artists to come now.
And thankfully, you know, with all due respect, my understanding is one of the igniters of it all was Daft Punk playing at EDC some years ago.
Oh, at Coachella.
Yeah, at Coachella, sorry.
I was there.
Okay, yeah, and changing. I was on the East Coast at the time, didn't really know about it, didn't have the same level of, you know, interwebs. But yeah, by all accounts, and I've seen it pop up in numerous documentaries as well as their own, which is also a good one. And you know, they're obviously not you know, North American, and I you know, thank them for that, because my understanding is the reinvigoration of rave culture after it sort of fell apart in the 90s.
It can be traced to that.
Can really be traced to that in a lot of ways, and so many people, including I think even like Skrillex, makes a comment about how he was basically a fan at Coachella watching that, and it just cemented to him. Oh my gosh, you know, like, I mean, I may be misquoting him. It could be someone else, but I'm pretty sure he quoted about that. But in any case, there's a number of producers that were at those events, at that particular event. It was groundbreaking in the way it was done. You were there, you would know. And it changed the way those guys thought about what they might be able to do in terms of music, a career in music, being part of music. And I know a number of them have grown up with that story as their background, who are, you know, Grammy winners.
Yeah, and actually, that show, that tour, was a complete game changer in so many ways. The fact that everybody was used to hearing Daft Punk's music in a specific way, and that they spent an entire hour-long set remashing and mixing and redoing every single one of their songs in a completely new way was a game changer in and of itself. But what they were able to do with production was something nobody had ever seen before. The Pyramid was like just a monster of LEDs. And at that time, people weren't really using LEDs in concert or rave production yet.
In their shoes, they weren't using them in their shuffle shoes.
Exactly. Like it kind of ushered in this whole idea of like, oh, we've been doing it wrong the entire time. Like, there's so many more lights we can use. There's so much more we can do with production. Like, you can build out stages that look like anything that you want them to be, and you know. And you can do anything that you want with the technology we have in music right now. You can do literally anything that you want. So, you know, the fact that they kind of stepped back into the scene after being gone for some time and completely changed the way everybody thought about what electronic music could be and what a live show could be at all. Like, it's you know, they really broke the mold, and they paved the way for everything that's happening right now.
And so for you, in all the things you do today, you know, do you trace some of your own inspirations back to that?
I'd have to say the current iteration of what I'm doing, yeah, I would say that was definitely an inspiring moment for me. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to see them twice on that tour. So I saw them at Coachella, and I saw them in Berkeley at the Berkeley Greek Theater. And
cool.
And that I remember thinking at the time when I was watching it, like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I had always said that, but it really hit home that, like, you know, seeing people create something like that was so overwhelmingly positive, might I add, was so inspiring. So definitely, I could say a lot of people that are in the scene today were inspired by that moment in time.
Wow. I mean, that's awesome. I wasn't there. I did go when I came out to California a few years back. You know, I went out to Coachella. I was just checking out anything and everything. You know, like you were saying, no festival elitism. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
People I knew would be like, nah, and I was like, have you ever been? They're like, no, and I'm like, well, we're just gonna go, man. Camp in the parking lot, dude. What, you know, how bad could it be? You know, and it was a wonderfully produced event. I got to hear, you know, like, there were standouts in the bands as well, but, you know, on the electronic side, really part of the reason we even went was because Skrillex was playing, and we were like, well, you know, he's, you know, without a doubt, I didn't even know a lot about his music at the time, and it was like 2 years ago, and I was like, you know, like, he's a guy of the time, man. Like, you know, I'd be remiss as an artist, you know, and DJ to not go hear this guy, you know, and we went, and he played back to back. It was probably, I don't know, 8,000 or 10,000 people under that dome he played under, and he was back to back with Fatboy Slim, and it was just a lot of fun, man. You know, and that was just Coachella was a wonderfully produced event, like I said, and they had things for all ages and a lot of stuff going on. It was, you know, it was a safe vibe and atmosphere, I don't know, it was cool, man. So I didn't go again, but you know, like I just been doing all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, man, I could see where you're coming from with that, and I didn't get to go to that one, but that was inspiring. And then probably for me, I don't know, another really inspiring thing, which has some to do with my first trip to Coachella, was that my second time to Burning Man, and Kelly probably knows what I'm about to say on this one because she was with me, was, you know, we were just riding around on our bikes, like midday, whatever. You know how it goes at Burning Man. You're just looking for whatever. And
right.
dust storms and whatnot of the day. And, you know, we're cruising around trying to head back to the camp, maybe get a bite to eat or something, refuel, get a nap. And, like, I hear these beats, and I'm like, yo, that sounds like Diplo or something. And we're, like, looking around. There's, like, nothing big around us. We're, like, in at, like, 8 and E or something, you know, like, down in,
wow.
Not on Esplanade. And so we're, like, looking around to find, like, where any music is coming from. And we cruise around a little bit, and then we go back. We find this tent, and it's, like, I don't know, Kelly, it couldn't have been more than 200 people in there, right?
It was Duck Pond.
Yeah, it was Duck Pond.
Oh, Duck Pond, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know.
It's
the only time I've ever been there, so I don't know how big they usually are, but it couldn't have been more than 200 people in there. And it was Skrillex and Diplo, not as Jack U. It was just the two of them hanging out, playing for, like, I mean, we got sucked in for an hour, and then they went off, and they were already playing when we got in there. But that was just so crazy, man. From an inspiration perspective, you know, like, I will say, like, I was sitting there watching those dudes, and I'm like, you know, I could come up with all kinds of things about how they make all this money, and so it's easy for them to be there, and it's easy for them to do a free show and all that bullshit. But you know what, dude? At the end of the day, making a whole lot more money, and they're both there playing to 200 people, having a blast, playing some R&B, playing some mashups, playing some whatever. Everyone having a good time, taking pictures, wearing people's clothes and goggles and hats and shit. I don't know. It was an inspiring moment for me because having seen him play with 10,000 people where he's essentially untouchable in a spaceship, and then right there 10 feet away where you don't have to zoom in with your camera to see him, you know, like it was, yeah. Anyway, that was probably one of my moments of the last couple of years.
Well, it's pretty incredible that they're even willing to do something like that. And you know, like you said, people can sling all the hate they want on these guys, but it's undeniable what they've contributed to electronic music already. And just to, I had some friends who actually got a chance to, like, they were on an art car with Diplo and got a chance to, like, sit there and chat with him. And he was like, you know, I know people say about Diplo, but he was like the most down-to-earth guy I've ever met. And you know, he was super chill, and then like you said, you got to see him play in front of 200 people. When are you ever going to get that experience?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get that far. I mean, you can, but I would almost say you can't get that far and be a total, like, you know, moron. You know, like, I mean, there has to be some point, you know, some substance to an individual that's gone that far and has that many fans. It's not like, you know, like he's got. I follow him on Instagram, you know, dude's playing, you know, he plays like these shows that are, you know, he's the headliner or Major Lazer, and it's like, it's just a sea of people, dude, in, like, you know, Israel, you know?
Right, or even he is the first artist to go into Cuba after they reopened it up. And you know, they paid for that. That was a free event. For those people.
I saw that. Yeah.
He put his company's money on the line for that. So
he's got his music, especially his earlier stuff, has just an incredible influence from, you know, I'll get some of the names mispronounced probably, but, you know, some of the bossa nova type stuff and Latin influences and Caribbean.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there's absolutely no question, even aside from reggae and reggaeton and all that. There's no question. I mean, he's certainly in his formative years, you know, that there's no doubt that's a big influence.
Oh no, absolutely. He owes a lot to all of that. And it's, you know, it's good. I mean, he can't be too terrible of a guy if he's going to put on a free concert for 10,000 people in a country that most of us will never go to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. Well, cool, man. Yeah, I mean, but it's great to see that. I mean, this all kind of, I guess we went off on like 9 tangents from musical elitism, but well, I'm glad I asked because I don't, you know, I think a lot more people share the ideas like we're talking about, like, probably, you know, agreeing 10, 20% left or right with us, more so than what you see online, I guess is my point, right? And so back to your whole point of the musical elitism, you know, like, I see somewhat notable artists, you know, they make jokes of Diplo or Skrillex, or they, you know, they hack on the fact that they're headlining and this and that. It's like, yeah, but dude, they're good.
They are.
Like,
no, they're good.
If nothing else, if you've been to one of the shows of, and not just those guys, but some of the others, you know, that are up in there that you'll quite often hear made fun of or memes of or whatever, you know, they know how to entertain the crowd that goes to see them.
Absolutely. They know their audience, and
you can't ask for something. You can't ask a guy for more than that, especially if he's doing something he enjoys.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't like it, and it shows when you see that see them perform that they really love what they do.
Yeah, I think you're just, like you said, I think you're just a hater if you know, like, you're just hating that people don't like whatever you're doing, you know?
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Yeah, no, because, I mean, there's a ton of artists out there, and there's a lot of really great ones that take a lot of shit, and a lot of it's really unnecessary. I think people just, and there's one thing that I find the most ridiculous is that people always point to this thing like, oh, so-and-so sold out. And Dylan Francis recently kind of let this kid have it on his Instagram feed. Somebody called him a sellout, and Dylan Francis was like, hey, he was like, selling out by definition means that I would be doing something that I don't want to do for money.
Right.
But that never happens because I love what I do. And don't expect me to keep doing the same thing that you like me doing because I'm going to grow as an artist. And if you can't get on board with that, then that's fine.
And every human has the right to change what they love to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know? So that, you know, and all that goes back to some of the genuine stuff. Like if I think that helps a lot. You know, if people realize and have a little bit more of an insight into what's going on in your world, I think they're not I think real music fans and whatnot are not quite as hard on people as they might have been way back when they couldn't really see anything going on other than a stylistic change or whatever, something like that. So,
absolutely, I agree.
One of the coolest comments I heard, more talking about releases, but it was from Wuki. I don't remember where I saw it. It might have been something you wrote. I don't know, but one of the things I saw was he was talking about, like, someone asked him, or the question was about, like, getting his music on labels or something like that, and yeah, he said a few things about his management and connections and this and that, but then he was like, at the end of the day, he's like, look, I just look at it like three ways, basically. He's like, shop it to the label, and I've got a pretty good idea they're probably gonna, you know, take it, but he's like, if they don't, he's like, I don't have heartburn, I just give it away and go make more stuff.
Right, exactly.
I just thought, like, what a great attitude, you know, like don't get worried about it. Just give it away to your fans, and then go make more stuff.
And then go make more music.
Yeah. How much time does that must save him? You know, I mean, I like.
Oh no,
that.
seriously, right?
You know. So, but totally cool, man. Well, man, we've been chatting for a while, man. Probably I'm sure, I don't know what your stop dead was, but we could go on into all other kinds of things, I'm sure. But if you're cool, we can wrap it up and
okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to throw out there, any projects you got coming up or whatnot. We didn't really chat about any of that, but you know, throw out anything that you got coming up.
Just look me up on insomniac.com. It's my full name, Alexander Diaz. Just released a tune for free on Punk's Music. You can see that on their Punk's free downloads page. And I'm working on a bunch of new stuff right now, so over the next few months you're going to hear a lot of new music from me.
Cool.
Which I'm really excited about that.
Any shows or gigs coming up?
Yep, my next big one is the Still Dream Festival in Belden, California, up in the Lassen National Forest, right by the Feather River.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's an amazing festival. It's been going on for I think 12 years now. I have some good friends who throw it, who really put their heart and soul into this amazing festival that's got the most ridiculous lineup of like bass music and and house all across the board. Lots of locals, lots of really good headliners.
Awesome.
Christian Martin's going to be there. Zeke Beats is going to be there. If you're in Northern California, or even if you're just around and you're looking for a new festival to go to, check it out. That's Still Dream Festival.
Cool. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. We got one of your buddies. In fact, Eric Rigsby's going to be on here. He's coming on. We're going to talk July 27th for anybody following stuff on here. So, he's a mutual friend of myself and Alex. So they'll be coming up. We're all over in the Bay Area, I guess, these days.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I love it. It's an eclectic area. It's very unique, the Bay Area in general. I certainly don't know anything about it from a local perspective, but I've definitely enjoyed the people that I've talked to or worked with from there, and the shows that I've been able to do there, small or large, and looking to get back there at some point later in the year, and stoked about that too. So, cool, man.
Well, yeah,
all
we're
right.
definitely looking forward to you coming back, man.
Yeah, man, psyched. We'll, as usual, I'll try to make a couple days around it so we can get together and maybe get you out to the dinner or something this time and hang out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
All right, man. Kelly, any final parting words?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You're too kind.
You're too kind. Final words? I don't know. I mean, as far as what I'm doing is next week I've got a NYC Bass Collective podcast going out. They do those on Wednesdays, so
Cool.
I'll be doing that with the Bass Collective next Wednesday.
Tweet it.
Tweet it.
Woo.
Your turn.
All right, man. I think Alex gets the final word. I'm gonna say stay classy, yo, and then Alex, you got the final word.
All right. I just want to appreciate both of you for having me out. It's been a lot of fun, and definitely appreciate what you guys are doing in all aspects of life, because you guys both kill it.
Thanks. You too.
Cool, man. Appreciate it, and loving what you're doing too, man. All around.
Thank you.
Even if I don't have a party to book you at.
It's all good, man.
All right, dude. On that note, I don't think I can get any funnier than that, man. Have a good night.
You too, man.
All right, brother.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.